potato for a minute. I said, just throw it back to you.
So before we went for the break, I had actually said that there are only two people in my assessment who have remained true to the vision of Linda Mwananchi. And I noticed how we all jumped. But allow me to just explain what I'm saying. And I'm glad we went for the break, because then I got to understand where I depart from Gaira's thinking. I said Babu and
Orengo.
And Orengo. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, for me, I'm not looking at who's shouting the loudest about Linda Mwananchi and who's saying the most about the dream for Linda Mwananchi, for example. I am looking at the people who are investing their resources in Linda Mwananchi. I'm looking at the people who have continued to speak the same language. I'm looking at the people who have not developed new ambitions from the ones they announced at the beginning of the Linda Mwananchi brigade. And when I start looking at that, I have to also begin looking at who has made friends and what kind of friends they have made. Now, where I depart from Gaira is because, for me, when I look at the opposition, I'm not looking at the opposition as Linda Mwananchi separate from United Opposition. Kenyans have said one thing: if you want to beat the current president, come together as an opposition and give us who? One candidate.
One candidate.
And for that reason, for me, I'm not separating Rigiji, Wiper, and whoever from the opposition. I'm actually saying amongst all, let me call them noisemakers for now, all the noisemakers in the opposition right now, they should be figuring out how they're going to get one candidate who Kenyans are going to vote for. Now, who has Kenyans put their dreams on? A number of people for presidency. And of course, let's just speak about some of the big names for now. We are all saying Mimi Sifuna, right? When Sifuna was in trouble with his party, which was also Babu Owino's party, you know it was costly to align with him. Babu stood with him in the party. Before he could even be outside with anybody, he stood with him. He accepted to be seen with him outside of the party. And so for me, if you're looking for your friends, this one who stood with you in need is a friend indeed. The other person who sacrificed his career, and he's sacrificing until today, is Orengo. He's paying a huge price on the ground because he's being told he doesn't care about the county. He's busy focusing on Linda Mwananchi.
Yeah.
He's paying a price for it. People who are paying the price and accepting to walk that journey. And then I start looking at other people and I'm saying, you had those friends at the beginning. You're beginning to make alignments, especially for me, that may be dangerous for Sifuna, where you're now being made a village kingpin. Again, when you started off as a national treasure for Gen Z, you know. So for me, I have just been watching the friends who are constantly pulling him towards Western, and the weekend was a climax for me. when every Tom, Dick and Harry was lifting up his arm and saying they support him and everything. Even the kind of support you get determines whether you continue being the quality kind of candidate that Kenyans are looking for. Gaira's party believes in new people, like get rid of all the corrupt people, let them all go home and bring in new people. And so for me, when I see people who may not necessarily have a clean record associating with a candidate who we are propping, for example, as a presidential candidate, I worry. I worry because we are then saying that we will have a government that may have the same kind of people who are eating like the ones who have been found in President Ruto's government. And so for me, the question I'm asking myself is, if you're not gathering, this is very biblical, then you're scattering. If you're not gathering, then you're scattering. Where I depart from PM party is that you're looking for, you're Puritan and you're looking for clean people. But this political arena currently is not offering clean people. And the way the tussle is going, it will be impossible to have all clean, but it's possible to clean out the worst of them and make sure they're sent home. Where do we meet in that conversation? Because if you continue working, if you continue working towards your trajectory, it basically means we are not going to get a commonality, number one. Number two, if you decide, for example, that you're going to set up a political party now, which is what Sifuna is doing, some of the assignments you have to do as we approach the election is popularizing that party, working to set up that party so that it's a factor in the next election. I think anybody who does not have a party by the 31st of August is wasting time. Because you can't be running a presidential campaign and still be trying to popularize a party. It's a lot of work, requires a lot of resources. If you have money, you can make it happen because you can pay people to do it as you run around campaigning. Last time I checked, we are fundraising for Mimi Sifuna, right? And so the ambition of actually, trying to set up a party and do all these things may not necessarily be something that works, right? Now, Babu said he's going to be governor. Babu has walked with this gentleman when he was in trouble. Babu has gone everywhere with him. Orengo has gone everywhere with him. They literally became the three faces that were showing up for Linda Mwananchi everywhere they went. Babu has paid the price in terms of even being attacked by people, constantly hearing that his supporters are being arrested and he has to go to court and defend them alone. It's not that all these other people are not lawyers. He's the one who's showing up for him. Orengo getting in trouble constantly, being called out constantly. For me, I'm now looking at what price are you paying to associate with the opposition.
But the same Orengo who went, according to what we see, to then go and bring in someone who may not be Puritan to join the faction at the same time.
And that's why for me I'm saying let's assess all the friends that are being made by everyone, number one. Number two, let us check whether they are gathering or scattering. Because if you're not gathering the vote, it means you're not working for the purpose of this mission. The mission was to bring the opposition together, give us one person, let's form a government with a different person, and hopefully we send home all the people who are corrupt, all the people who have robbed Kenyans, all the people who have killed Kenyans, and allow the new person that we are voting as president to have quality people to choose from. One of the biggest problems that Ruto has today is that he does not have quality friends. I've said it in this studio before. And so everybody he has appointed to work for him keeps on messing up because they're not quality human beings from the start. And so the mission was to make sure that Linda Mwananchi has quality humans, so that when you're forming government, you're choosing from amongst the better of the lot, not the best of them. Because if we were to nitpick, we will find sins that have been committed by every single one of those individuals. But then we are saying that as of now, there are friends that are being made that are a complete baggage for this movement. And their records may not be seen now, but in a short while, I dare say, by the end of October, you will begin to see how they are going to start showing up. And for me, that is where I worry. The whole of last week I kept on saying we must protect the hearts of Gen Z. Because when they get this news, they'll be very dejected, they'll be very disillusioned. Majority of the millennials who are used to saying, you know what, these things are not going to change, let me enjoy my peace, are actually going to let these things slide. And the moment we do, the person who's going to be winning is the person we don't want to see winning in the coming election.
It's definitely.
I'm also saying, and I started off by saying that, follow the money. Follow the money. Kenyan voter, follow the money. Check who is having conversations with your preferred candidate in the morning and who's having conversations with them at night. Follow the money. If they don't have the means, friendships and associations to be able to fund their ambitions, sit back and ask questions. We have time to ask questions. Sit back and ask questions. And when we come to the next election, Kenyans must be punitive, very punitive. Anybody who looks like they're playing games with our elections should be punished accordingly. And they should be punished by being sent home. Let them watch us form government from outside. If we don't do that today, if we don't check the alliances that are forming within the opposition and check where they are going, we are going to be in a lot of trouble as a country, because what we are going to miss is the nuances that the politicians actually want us to miss. This is a whole game. There are several layers to it. Every day you're allowed to see the layer they want you to see. When the other layer makes sense, they allow you to see that layer, and then they depart from the mission that they have set. Also, a reminder, for example, to the person who's being propped up as presidential candidate today, Sifuna, that when you make friends when you're in trouble, sometimes those friends are the wind under your wings. And departing from them may actually means that you've set yourself up to fall from very far high. The foundations of his fame right now are not quite strong. He needs to do a lot of work to fortify that foundation, because he had not thought about the presidency. He knows, he can admit to you. He needs to fortify that foundation, and the kind of friends he's making will determine whether that foundation will stand or not. Anybody who comes to his camp today who is associated with the oppressor is going to leave him without feet to stand on. He must carefully choose his friends even as he's going. Just because you have been named presidential candidate does not mean that now everybody can be your friend and you can carry all kinds of friends. It requires a special kind of talent to know who will carry the burden you have and who is going to come and become a burden to you.
Gaira, earlier you talked about the need of Kenyans to punish individuals, and she has also reverberated the same. And as we approach 2027, then there is need for all these nuances to be put into perspective for Kenyans to equally look at, okay, fine, we're going into election. Is it a question of mtuetu? Is it a question of emotions? Is it a question of, at the end of the day, what do we want as a people, as a governance structure that will improve our situation?
I think Stella got the subject correct, but maybe I made an assumption of who I had in mind.
Okay.
8.2 million Kenyans never showed up to vote in the last election, right? 8.2 million Kenyans didn't show up in the last elections didn't show up in the last elections to vote for whatever reasons. They found no need for them to turn up to vote, and they were the largest base out of that election because they were the most. As Kenyans, we need to ask ourselves, why didn't they find any need to show up to vote in an election that was very charged, and especially the young people, with the young people the most concerned of that election? And we decided that we need to look into it and see why. And our belief then was that it's because they didn't believe with the crop of leaders that were there at that particular time, and neither did the candidates on the ballot were worthy enough for them to show up. Since then, the numbers have increased, Dennis. IBC just did a mass voter registration, the highest they've ever done. They've never hit 2.6 million within 30 days. That was a very big performance. And majority of them, again, young. That has been the mission from the very beginning. From last year. Last year, when we set up Kenya Moja, it's because we had seen that potential, that there's a possibility that there are young Kenyans, or in particular, and progressive Kenyans, who want to see something new, something fresh, and we can go all the way. In business too, if you're selling groceries, and you realize everybody in that market is selling tomatoes and onions, and there's a gap for avocados, and you decide that for me, I'm going to make a tactical decision that I'm only going to supply avocados so that I have a niche within the market and continuously sell. You don't show up with the avocados and after 3 days start saying, I'm going back to the onions. Because there's a tangible, solid number of Kenyans that truly, as Stella is saying, that want to see a new country that has a new arrangement, a new generation, a new formation of leaders, and they believe in that. If that doesn't happen, two things must happen. They either reject that candidate or once again don't show up to vote. That was the original base of what Linda was. You understand? And so the moment other players come into play, and I've given you an example, Dennis, and I'd love you to also react to this. I've said Karoli Omondi, because she was saying the company that you keep with Sifuna, and the people that are purportedly, because a presidential election is a serious business. It's not a joke. You have to put in a lot of money. And if people are seeing your rallies are happening, the MPs used to contribute. I used to be there. They would say we're going to the Busia rally. They say we're going to Busia. Would need some sort of stage. We'll need some sound. This is the budget. I say we need 1 million. How many of us are here? We are 10, 15 MPs. Can everybody chuck at least 50,000 shillings so that we have a budget? In Kakamega, because that's where I come from and I was there, that ground you saw there is called a Malemba ground. In fact, it has a nickname. It's called Chocolate City for those who come from Kakamega. Because of we have a KMTC college there. Yeah. So it's a very popular place with students. So most times people love during the weekends from the hostels, they love to hang out in that ground. So because of that, it was branded Chocolate City. It's like a dating site around the place. It's a free space, Dennis. If you go there, you can have a rally tomorrow. You just need to notify the police. The only two major expenses, it was the stage and the sound and your fare there, whether you're driving or you're walking, to get there. You understand? That has since changed with what is happening now. In Homa Bay, somebody said he saw 150 Prados. You know how much it costs to be able to fuel and get there. That's like tens and tens of millions. You understand? So we said, if we lose out the audience that you are addressing from the very beginning, that's why we pulled aside. I said, wait a minute. We are attracting faces into this group that were not necessarily the original vision bearers of what we wanted to do with Linda. As Caleb has continuously said, even on this show, who is told you is the founder of Linda Mwananchi, because of what we had agreed on. So if Karoli Omondi today, and Stella, maybe you react to this, is a spokesperson of Linda Mwananchi, sits in all the strategy meetings of Linda, an independent political formation that has a candidate in mind for the 2027 elections. But immediately leaves that room. He reports to another room where is the Secretary General of Azimio Coalition, which has a chairman, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the Secretary General and Chairman Uhuru Kenyatta, and a new leader after the passing of Baba, who is Kalonzo, on record. That is his presidential candidate. You understand?
Who's presidential candidate?
The presidential candidate of Azimio is Kalonzo Musyoka, is the leader of that group. And the chairman is Uhuru Kenyatta. And the Secretary General is Karoli Omondi. You understand? And it's an independent political formation that is planning to compete in this election, isn't it? But the same Secretary General of Azimio is the spokesperson of another political formation, that is Linda Mwananchi, that also has a presidential candidate. True or false, Dennis? It's not possible. In the realm of the
clearly it is, because it's happening.
It's happening. And I'm telling you. And you can imagine, because those of us who believe in the Linda dream of a new generation of leaders under Bayern Sifuna, which is what we've done, are not very comfortable with such an arrangement. You understand?
So what would you prefer?
Yeah.
Listen, those who believe in Kalonzo, in a free and democratic state, must, within the opposition cause, first of all, you must agree, and I must let you know that we believe that to beat William Ruto, we need a united opposition. But even within the opposition, we are trying to build our own candidate. That's why you've seen Rigiji doing his thing, whatever he's doing. He's building his numbers, so that when he comes to the table, he can come to the table and say, so what are we bringing on board? In the process of wanting to come with one solo candidate that can be able to face the president. That therefore means Sifuna, Matiang'i, Kalonzo are competitors for that presidential ticket, isn't it? Those of us who believe in Sifuna and in Linda are not comfortable with having characters that come onto Linda's stage, fill the Linda stage with on Sundays, on the weekends, but then midweek they're playing other roles, pushing other candidates. And when you raise it, we've been completely under attack, and I raised it before. I said this all week, just because we said, look, we don't mind Kalonzo and all the other candidates building their numbers. That's what you do in a competition, in a fair competition, Dennis. Then when you get to the table, then we can be able to present something. But if we're gonna continue having rallies and people filling our Linda stage, or purporting to be with us, and then eventually midweek they move to other candidates. At that time, when now we go to the table, we might not, our brothers might not have anybody behind them, because those ones in Wiper would come in as Wiper on that table. Those ones who are spending time with Matiang'i would come with Jubilee, and we might not be
So
able
are you confused? Because you seem, are you confused? Because you seem, if you're confused, then it's not convincing anybody outside here that you're very clear on the position, because you can't have a moving target when you're trying to hit something. You can't. Any sniper will tell you that you need your target to be in one place at one time for a particular period of time in order to hit it. If you don't have those three creating the situation, you will not hit the target. And if anything, I'm just going to say, it sounds like you're playing right into the hands of President William Ruto. Right into his hands, because you can't say that you're and I've asked this question to everyone who sat here. You can't say that you're united if you have 6 different presidential candidates. Who is the person? Is it people say, oh, there's still time. Okay, understood. There's a year to the election, a little bit under a year now to the election. You have a campaigning period between May the 27th and August 10th, or May 29th and August 10th, to then be able to get people to coalesce around an idea. But how are you united? It's like saying, let's have moving targets so we can confuse the enemy, but then you end up confusing yourself. Which one is it? Can you have 6 different presidential candidates? Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Maraga, Rigiji, we don't know, Sifuna. Those are 6 already. And you're at the same time saying that we have a united opposition. Can you do that?
I think it's easy to announce that you want to be presidential candidate, but whether or not you want to be on the ballot is a different story.
Okay.
There are several people who have announced that they want they're vying for presidency just so that they can position themselves for negotiation. And one of the reminders I want to give on this table is that the individuals who we are asking to unite and choose one person are all politicians. So all of them, number one interest is to protect their own turf and ensure that then they have a stake in the next election. And then number two, then figure out who to collaborate with as they are doing that. And so for me, I'm not worried about individuals setting up political parties and wanting to vie in those political parties. As a matter of fact, I wish we had fewer parties. I wish we would have been able to have Linda Mwananchi inside ODM driving an agenda with an already set up party, but then ODM chose to be swallowed by the president. So now that we are in this place, anybody who's creating his own political party is creating it for a specific purpose. Babu is planning to be a president in 2032. It makes sense for him to have a party now, so that in the next election he'll not be looking for a party. Looking at Sifuna vying for presidency, he needs a political party. ODM is definitely not going to be his home, so it makes sense for him to be looking for a political party. The different individuals, especially for Rigiji to consolidate his backyard, he needed a political party to do so. I wish he wasn't consolidating around tribe, but that's the avenue he has found to consolidate on. So whether or not there are many political parties is not a problem. Number two, I have a slight departure from Gaira on the people who come on the podium for Linda Mwananchi. The truth is that politics is a game of numbers. And so for me right now, I'm not worried about who's coming on the podium. I'm concerned about whether the voter is using the right lens to look at the individuals coming on the podium. So that if someone is coming on the podium and speaking and acting like they belong, but they don't, that Mwananchi is seeing through them. Because at the end of the day, the way politicians behave, if they notice a vehicle that is going to deliver them to the vote, they will take that vehicle.
How critical?
The reason why Sifuna has lots of friends in Western Kenya right now is because the politicians in Western Kenya have had Mimi ndio Sifuna, and now they know it's an easy ticket back to office. Are the people of Western Kenya checking to see that everybody who's saying Mimi ndio Sifuna just because they want to come back to office have actually done them well? If they haven't, they should punish them by the president. That's my point. And Sifuna himself, as he's making his friends, is he checking who's going to be baggage to him? Because when I say baggage, I mean the people who have nothing to offer to Kenyans but are tagging onto you just because they're hoping to win.
Just to piggy up on what you've said, earlier you said there is need for leaders to have that national appeal. There is fear that with the infiltration in these movements, there is a high possibility that then someone like Sifuna, who had that national appeal, is being balkanized to remaining being a community leader, right? But if you look at someone like Sifuna and the appeal that he has, it's nationwide. It has been seen as if he appeals to each and every single facet of what Kenya is. Now, everybody else, as we've seen, is their backyard. This is my community. I am coming with my community on the table. Sifuna is getting there with saying, I'm coming in with Kenyans. Can that be a better negotiating level as opposed to my backyard? I'm coming with 2 million people.
I actually wish he was saying, I'm coming in with Kenyans, as he's discussing it with equals at the top. He cannot take Kenyans and bring them into the home of Western Kenya. That's the thing. We are saying that Western Kenya is a small village inside Kenya. Kenya is the bigger house. If we were to use Boni Halwale's compound, Kenya is the first wife's home. You know, so you can't be bringing Kenya into the last wife's house. You're supposed to be bringing everyone to the big home. You know, and so for me, my concern for Sifuna right now is that the friends he's making are dragging him towards a smaller corner of this nation, and yet he was propped up as a national leader. They are taking away from the greatness that he has managed to achieve through his career, and of course that ODM mistakes have managed to inject into his political career. If he does not watch out in the next coming days, he risks irrelevance. And I know I may get in trouble for saying this because I know the Mimi ndio Sifuna people don't want to hear anybody saying what I'm saying today. But I'm saying this because Sifuna is a man I have loved. Sifuna is a man that my family supports. Sifuna is a man that my brother was begging to send money to his campaign even before he decided to go for presidency when he was vying for Senate. So he's someone who has actually, has a good track record as far as I'm concerned. And his sins are few. Let's say that, you know. I am saying this today because the friends he is making are friends who are dragging him to a small corner. They're dragging him to that place of being a kingpin, leader from Western. And the reason why they're dragging him there is because they like the consolidation power that he has for Western Kenya now. They like how easily he's going to deliver them to the vote and ensure that they win even without vetting. That is why I started by saying, these buses, don't vote for the bus. Tell people, shuka chini. Check, you know the way you check, everybody check their bag, confirm that they are
all Kalau
not...
style.
All Kalau style. Check that they're not carrying stolen money. They're not carrying corruption records. Check if they are. Even if they say Mimi Sifuna, send them home. We have also seen Gaira, political prostitutes, who are in the space, but they're busy swaying in every direction, looking for survival, hoping that they are going to be named deputy governor, hoping that they're going to be named running mate for somebody. And in the process, they hold on to nothing in terms of philosophy, hold on to nothing in terms of ideology, but then they are hoping that they're going to be caught up somewhere and be found in office. Those people may actually be that news that is going to hang the candidate that you love and support as soon as they find their way into becoming a deputy something, because either they're coming with money or influence or associations. It will be a problem. I've seen some headlines talking about Uhuru funding Sifuna to do whatever and whoever funding. I beseech Kenyans, I'm really begging Kenyans to go and follow the money again. Follow the money again, confirm who is funding your candidate, confirm who they are working for.
Why does that matter?
Why that matters is because if you do not follow the money, you will discover that 3/4 of the already existing political parties in Luo Nyanza are working in favor of President Ruto, not because they're going to vote for him, but because they are scattering the vote for him. You will discover that Western Kenya is being split in the many directions, is being split so that there's nobody who's going to get the kind of mass of votes that will then beat the number of votes that Ruto is going to receive. You will discover that even the noise from the coast, where it was noise about having UDM and whoever their candidate is as the deputy president, and then now they realize this is not going to work, and Joho is now being propped up, is noise to ensure that at the end of the day, Ruto gets something small, and then everyone else splits whatever is left. When you start splitting like that, he's eventually going to be the beneficiary of this thing.
Come on now, Stella. What you're telling us is that there's a hidden hand here in all of these things that we are seeing that could go to the benefit of the incumbent.
And don't be surprised if that hidden hand is the president of Kenya, His Excellency President Ruto. I don't know why I'm calling him Excellency. Don't be surprised if that is him. Because this man is a trickster. I've said it in this studio over and over again. The person we are dealing with is not a man who plays around. There's nothing that is off the table for him. If he must pay his own people to go and act like they belong to you so that they can split you, he will pay them. I'm actually asking Kenyans to pay attention. It is okay to be in support of the official opposition, but if you're going to drive these people, drive them towards making a decision that will serve you, and not a decision that will serve their piper for now. And you need to check who is out here genuinely because they care about Kenya and they want to transform Kenya, and who is out here because they have a mission to achieve.
So, Ngaira, is this what you saw? Is this the fear that Renaissance movement and walked out?
October 1st.
And why couldn't you just sit down with Linda Mwananchi, as it were, as founding members to deal with the problem?
That's what I want to tell you. October 1st, 2025, last year, a day just before IEBC clears candidates for the by-election that was going to happen in November, we make a decision that ODM is no longer our home. And ODM was not going to give us space to compete on their platform for any other future political formation. And we decide that there is need to have a party. You understand, Dennis? Then I go for the by-election because there was no room then to do a party. We go for the by-election. The by-election was in November. 9 candidates in Malava. I came forth, and then we come back to Nairobi. We decided what is the name of the party. You understand? Fast forward January this year, January 10th, we have our second meeting, and the registrar informs us that our certificate for provisional registration is ready. The week that followed, I think a Wednesday or Thursday, so because Sunday, the meeting was on, the 10th meeting was on a Sunday, so 11th, 12th, 13th, on a Wednesday, we go to the IBC, to the office of the Registrar of Political Party, RPP, and we formally receive our the clearance for PM Party, which was covered with the entire media. That was 8 months ago, before we did the first rally for Linda Mwananchi. It was way ahead of time. You understand? There was no Linda Mwananchi at that time, We believed that the country needs a clean start. And we believed in Sifuna, and we believe that if there's anybody that is closer to what we as PM believe in, is Sifuna, and that's why we want that clean slate. And we did not agree with the many other factions that came into play. That's when people have been asking, and I think you asked even Caleb, why are you no longer in the Linda Mwananchi rallies? That has been a question that's been asked.
Yes.
It's because we saw along the way, and Stella, she's right.
But he didn't tell us that. He told us that on the days when
you
there
look
was
for him because you can ask him.
No. I asked the question directly. Yeah. And I asked him, why have you not been there? Are you still part of the thing? And he said, no. Well, on the last few occasions, he's been busy, but he's still part of it. Is that a lie?
I'm prepared. I just talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So that has changed.
I'm telling you that along the way, and Stella, what she's alluding to is very correct. There are people who then became, we started getting new players on our platforms that we truly felt like they do not represent what we're trying to achieve. And also, I've told you from the lessons we've learned. Remember, Derek, we've been around for a while.
Dennis.
I might not look. Sorry, I keep forgetting. There's some guy called Derek I know as well. So, Dennis, I keep saying that one lesson that I learned from the corporate sector is that there are people who are supposed not to be carried away with just the sideshows on the stage. They need to look at what is happening from behind the scenes. And Stella, she's right. Follow the money, look at the allies that somebody is keeping. It means we are no longer on the same page as to what we had, the original dream of what we wanted to achieve. And that's why we decided to look back and say, wait a minute, why is this and this guy now here? What is his interest in this group? Who could be the beneficiary of his actions within this formation? You understand? And when you go deeper to that, then you realize the kind of things Stella, she's alluding to. That there are people who really wanted Linda to veer off the original mission. Yet, as we were clear that if 8.2 million Kenyans did not see it worth it to go and vote, and that number has since grown with the Gen Z and the increasing number of progressive Kenyans, I think they're saying now is at around 11 million, those ones you can consider young and young voters, a big base that any political party can run with, because you get 80% of that is almost 9 million votes. You can win an election with that, isn't it? We say, let's go big on this group and bank on this group and go all the way. Then there are people who come with ethnic titles. We are equally disappointed, Stella, with the idea that our brother Sifuna has been dragged to Western Kenya, where he could have gotten just an automatic base. I've been there and people already like him. He doesn't really need to. It's one of those areas, and I was there 2 weeks ago. Sifuna, and I think from the funeral that we had on Friday, you can see he doesn't really need to do a lot of effort there. But to drag him back there, and even worse, from a communication point of view, to see that the people discussing Sifuna party are the local villagers on the other side, completely gives that first party a face of, a regional party, as opposed to what we've done. We did a very beautiful NDC. I think you saw it.
But Linda Mwananchi is not a party.
No, I know this is not my show, but can we also ask who's the beneficiary of Caleb walking alone?
No. You see, in a free and democratic...
So we shouldn't ask that question?
In a free... No, I'm just saying, in a free and democratic space, we are free. And that's why I've given you the history of our party. It was there way before this Linda thing.
Absolutely. Can we ask who's the beneficiary of him walking alone?
You see, when somebody makes a political decision in a free and democratic state, in a free and democratic space, it's enough that it fits the purpose as to why he believes I built this formation. For us is to be able to. Originally, we had thought within the Linda group that now that the vision to deliver a new generation of leaders within the Linda Mwananchi is failing, we have to build a real boat, because Linda was not a party, as you say.
Still
Linda can't take you to Parliament tomorrow, but PM can give you a ticket to go to Parliament.
But one asks the question, if you believed in what Linda Mwananchi was to offer, and there were concerns that you had as a founding member of Linda Mwananchi, why not stick it out and deal with that issue? Because many now are looking at RM, unfortunately, as the party that has come to divide the votes that Linda Mwananchi was controlling in the first place.
PM or RM? Now I'm even getting confused.
PM has come to interfere with the votes that Linda Mwananchi was controlling. So who's benefiting with that division?
After the 2017 election, and ODM party went into a review, we went to Kilaguni to do an analysis of how the outcome of the election. We made a decision that it was a terrible mistake with the coalition partners to allow our members of parliament in the lower, our candidates in the lower seats to compete against each other, because we had lost some easy seats, including Langata. seats that we could not have lost. And the decision was that we should not repeat the same mistake going to the next election because it gave us low numbers in parliament. That functionary was there. When that decision was taken to the NEC meeting at Oranges, where I was, it was ratified, including the party leader then, Raila Odinga. He said this was a terrible mistake. 4 years later, I was back at KICC and ODM was again signing a coalition agreement with, in fact, 26 other parties. In my local constituency back home in Obuya East, where everybody was angling to get that one ticket for ODM because they believed that was the ticket, immediately the decision was made at KICC that ODM is now going to be part of a formation called Azimio, and now we have 26 other options. All the candidates that were in that nomination that were going to face in ODM split it to 7 parties. You understand? The guy who won that seat, Mr. Wanyonyi, who is now the current MP for Obuya East, won with 12,000 votes. All the other 6 candidates of Azimio put together almost double his vote. You understand? The leader of the party was still the same. Human beings are not angels. It's possible that we have a leader who's probably not listening to everybody. You understand? And sometimes you can try as much, you can do your best to try and inform the leader that this
Which
is the
leader
right
is this
thing.
now you're talking about? Because like I said, you're confusing us here. Which leader are you talking about? You're talking about Caleb Amisi, you're talking about,
I'm talking about
Sifuna. He's not listening to whom?
I do believe that Sifuna is not listening to everybody that is giving the advice.
Who is he listening to?
No. I think let's not be insincere. Let's not be insincere. And I'm glad that you've given the example you have given.
Yeah.
This example you have given sets you right where I need you. Because I asked a question.
Yes.
Should we also ask who's benefiting from Caleb walking alone? And I think you've answered my question when you spoke about the example that you have given.
Yeah.
Anytime we are on a mission to scatter the opposition votes, we are basically saying we are playing into the hands of President Ruto. And for me, once we answer the question of who is gathering and who is scattering, number one, follow the money. Then number two, who is gathering and who is scattering? Then we have the answer to the question, who wants us to go back into the hands of our oppressor? And that is a difficult question.
The oppressor being?
Of course, the president of this nation.
Okay.
I have always been very clear that this is a presidency. I don't have ever made this mistake that we have made in this nation because we have put ourselves in a lot of trouble. Now, in 2002, when we wanted to get rid of Moi, Caleb was alive. He saw what the opposition had to do. Baba had to sacrifice his own ambitions to go and support Kibaki in order for only one candidate to be competing for all the votes that were not going to be put in the basket that Moi was supporting, and therefore had President Uhuru as the candidate. If that was the formula that worked then, nothing has changed in this nation now. If you split the opposition amongst the many people, very soon you may hear that Rigiji is going to be allowed to vie. If his appeal goes the way he wants it to go. If you split all those votes, you will waste the value of consolidation that comes from having the number of millions that the Mrima represents, and the number of millions that Western Kenya represents, the number of millions that Luo Nyanza represents, cost every part of this nation that is clamoring for change. You will waste those votes. The conversation now is not for people to now go and start creating their own camp in the name of, what did you call it? In a democratic nation. No. Our elections is not happening in a vacuum. It is happening in a space where democracy itself has been captured. So for you to be able to transform the nation, you must do extra in order to consolidate. And that is why people are even talking about coalitions. I'm hoping that coalition can be created before we go into the election, because you don't want a President Ruto in a runoff. You do not want that. And we also don't want to tire Kenyans and exhaust Kenyans voting for so many small village heads. And then eventually, after the election, we now tell them that they're going to go for a runoff and spend more money and vote for someone against the President Ruto. Especially when IBC is saying it's broke.
Stella and George, this is interesting because at the very beginning of all of these conversations, as we saw things starting to morph, because, August 2022 is the same as now. Politics had already started taking center stage when the new administration came into. And what people told us is that the agenda and its slogans were there. Ruto must go. That was the agenda. That seems to have changed now. The agenda seems to be morphing to, I also want a piece of the pie. You've more or less said it just now. Caleb Amisi said, no, this is not what we wanted. So let us now register our party alone. Others have said, I'm not going to run. Then suddenly you find yourself running. Those who've been impeached are coming back and saying, I control. So if you want anything, you have to talk to me. But this is my candidate. Somebody else says we're going to work together, but I want to be what happened to the original idea whereby good governance and proper leadership for the security of the livelihoods of the people of Kenya, according to the Constitution, was going to be the main agenda? Where did that go?
Drew, the thing is, I think you've not had the chronology that I gave you.
I did. I heard very well, but my question remains. Where did the original idea go? Because nobody's talking about it now. Have you heard in this conversation that we've had this morning? We're talking about the people of Kenya to ensure that where they're going in the future is going to be secured, and that it was clear in the minds of people that the way things are currently cannot continue. But now, even in this last 1.5 hours, what have we heard? That, there's infiltration, there might be somebody paying another person. We don't know if the people who are joining are with us or not with us. And we also...
the original, you're saying the original reason, the original agenda as to why we created whatever formation that we did. And even as she talked about Linda, before that we had Kenya Moja. It hasn't changed. It's our belief, and my personal belief, that unless we change the quality of the leaders that we have currently, and not be forced into compromise, as she's saying, that yes, while we might want a fresh team, but the reality of beating the president, that's the argument, isn't it? The reality of beating President William Ruto is that we must coalesce as a position, which we agree.
Yes.
But we have said if that is to happen, then we must still remain on course as to what the original intention is, which is to deliver generational change in the country. And we did not create a party after Linda and these things you're talking about.
It doesn't matter when it happened.
Because you're trying to allude to that, saying that we don't
I'm not alluding. I'm very clear. If there's anything, I'm extremely clear.
I think Doi is asking a different question. She's asking why we have departed from the interest of Kenyans. The delivery of services to Kenyans, power with the people towards kingpins and splitting and getting a piece of the cake and everything. And the truth is we have departed. But I have been raising an alarm in this studio continuously, saying Gen Z managed to take us away from the place where we're discussing individuals and their fiefdoms towards a place where we're discussing every individual based on how they deliver for Kenyans.
Yes.
The status quo panicked. They panicked, and so they had to reorganize quickly. In this situation, I actually contend that every one of the actors in our society right now, including Rigiji himself, who also participated in the process of trying to take us back to the place where we start discussing fiefdoms instead of discussing the interests of Kenyans. And so now they have brought us to a place where even Gen Z themselves are discussing a kingpin before they discuss the interests of Kenyans. Is it possible to transform that? Yes, it is. If it was done once, it can be done again. But the truth is we have departed from that place. And maybe what we were saying even at the beginning of this show is that we need to move from kingpins. That's why I'm saying tell people to get out of the bus and go back to discussing the interests of Kenyans and what they deliver for you. That's number one. And if we are not careful, the resources they're investing in making sure that we don't discuss our interests and we discuss fiefdoms and whatever other spaces they want to discuss is a lot. And therefore, if we do not invest our own resources in pulling this conversation towards our interests, we will reach the next election discussing kingpin, Luo kingpin, Kikuyu kingpin, whatever kingpin, and one term and two term, which are nonsense if you ask me. The main issue should be who is going to redeem this nation from where we find ourselves now. Number two is that you cannot separate the political careers of politicians from the politics that they carry. At the end of the day, their politics is for survival. If the market demands fiefdoms, they will be discussing kingpin and mutuetu and all that. If the market demands accountability, you saw for a period of time during the first round of Gen Z protests in your studios, everyone was coming in talking about Kenyans and what Kenyans want. Kenyans and what Kenyans want. So it's possible to get the politicians to talk about the right things. The demand side is what should increase. Every Kenyan should insist that every candidate tells them what they're going to do for them. And I was glad when they started asking, okay, sawa sisi ndio Sifuna, then what? Okay, you want to be our president, Maraga, what are you going to do for us? Okay, Matiang'i, you're saying you want to be our president. How about these sins and that sin that you committed? I was happy when we were having those conversations, and I wish we could quickly go back to that place, because when we do, it will become very easy for us to even to choose from outside who we want as a presidential candidate. Tell them, if you don't have this person as a presidential candidate, that we are not going to get on board. And the reason why we must do this is because as Kenyans, we are the ones who felt the pain of what we have had to deal with. These politicians can regroup, organize themselves, figure out a way of surviving without us. So we must make decisions that are going to serve our interests. But number two, and most important, I've sat right here suggesting that we have a People's Electoral College. When I was suggesting it, I actually just thought we were going to use it to choose who becomes our MCA, MP, whatever. But I realize now, more than ever, that we're going to need that People's Electoral College, because if you have united opposition and Linda Mwananchi plus any other initiative that is going to arise as a result of the transitions that are happening right now, we may need a space where the people again get to choose. That space is not an NDC, because these things are no longer happening in political parties. That space is a different space, and that space must be held. I hate to admit that Baba may have seen this far when he says we need a conclave. Because if this is what we are carrying into the next election, it basically means we can't have... The NDCs will choose who becomes the Wiper candidate, who becomes the ODM candidate, who becomes UDA. But then at the end of the day, when you get out here, we have to figure out, how do we choose this one person? Do we allow people to close the door and come back and tell us tumechagua huyu? Or are we saying we want a stake in it? And I think we must demand a stake in it. After we demand a stake in it, they should not be chosen based on their tribe. They should be chosen based on what they're going to do for Kenyans. If you choose based on your tribe, just rest assured that you're playing in the hands of the status quo. Money was poured. Time was spent to strategize, to ensure that you stop discussing accountability, stop discussing the interests of Kenyans, stop discussing what Kenyans need, and start discussing Mrima and Luo Kingpin and Western Kenya, Munduefwe, and Coast, and the fact that the time for Coast has come. I'm telling you, we must be very careful in these conversations that we're having as we go towards the next election. The truth is that the people who have led Kenya to where we are today prefer to go to the elections with tribes as the key for the rooms. The people who actually care about democracy prefer to go to the elections with political parties, with philosophies, strong philosophies, as a vehicle for delivery of leadership. If we truly, truly cared about democracy, ODM should not have been a party that is dying right now. The man who is in power does not care about democracy. And that is why he allowed a party that has grown for 20 years, had the kind of tenets that it has, to just disappear because he wanted to make sure that he neutralizes it and makes it weak.
I mean, Gairo, we've seen Kenyans speak. And if we just go back to Olkalau, utaleta pesa, but we will use our heads to vote, right? Now, we wanted to get to a point where we're discussing issues and agendas and interrogating individuals who are coming in our spaces and saying that even if we vote for you and you get to that house, you will stand with us, that you will deliver to us. Because remember, 2022, Azimio, as it were, was the majority in parliament. But what happened to those political parties and their leaders that it was so easy for them to just move, because then President William Ruto was the president and they could move that way. So how do we also ensure that within these united opposition that have come together with a single agenda, we'll stick it out with Kenyans, we'll do what is needed for Kenyans to say, finally, we have a leadership that is working?
Those are the efforts that we're making. And I think Stella deserves a cocktail. The next People's Cocktail in a week's time. I think I reach out to her for clearly setting out what should be happening in this country. I think, Dennis, Kenyans have already made that statement, particularly young Kenyans. They are very clear on what they expect in the next election. And that's why we keep saying that you're underestimating this group, but it's a solid group that will be very decisive in the next election. We want to bank on it. When you say just fresh, it's because we believe that fresh is a sizable amount of Kenyans that want to see agendas and manifestos and what's your vision for this country and your track record, because you can just come and purport to want to do something for us, but there's nothing much to see of what you've been doing before, isn't it? And they've already crossed that line. So there is no debate as to whether Kenyans, particularly the Kenyans of this generation, the younger Kenyans, maybe of our generations, if you're a millennial, who have such expectations as alluded by Stella and as per your questions. What I am saying is, why can't we stick on that lane? Mm-hmm. You understand? Why can't we stick with those ones? Those ones, and see how many there are. That is the, you call what do you call this? The opinion poll. That's the ultimate opinion poll that we need on election day to find out, are they truly 11 million Kenyans who want to see a new Kenya? It can only happen if we stay on that lane as opposed to going for compromise. That compromise, Stella, of saying that yes, it's true, we agree that we need a fresh start. But you see, we can't do, if at all, we do not mop up these other ethnic leaders and stuff. We've tried that before. That's why we have an impeached president. This president, we have an impeached deputy president. This deputy president and his this Gachagua, former deputy president Gachagua, who is impeached, and his boss then William Ruto, had a campaign. We went to Nyeri. That is the most brutal. One time we were coming with Baba from Nyeri. We went to, those who know Karatina town, just after Karatina town, there's a hotel there. We were somewhere there, and we were having lunch before we come into Kiambu, I think a place called Makongeni, and then eventually Githurai. You know that story of Baba climbing the mountain. And the kind of hate I saw on that line, just because they were saying, we know Ruto is hata akiwa ni mwizi wetu. Remember those statements on your own media, you're a journalist. Those people had put compromise in their campaign. They'd said, yes, while we know that there are characters within our campaign that are not good enough and do not deserve these positions, but because we must defeat Baba. I hope you're getting the context of my argument. Because we must just defeat Baba, let's compromise and carry them along. Eventually you form government, and then you realize you do not share the same ideology, you do not share the same working culture with the person, and you can't stand them, and then you impeach them. Isn't it? And that's what we want to avoid. We want to have a situation where, truly, if we believe in a certain cause, we go all the way and go build and discover our numbers on the ballot. You understand? Otherwise, we're going to do a compromise, Stella. And I agree. We're going to do a compromise and say, yes, we must have these people. We cannot do without them. He's bringing our Kamba vote. He's bringing all this kind of votes. He's bringing Kikuyus and stuff. But eventually, when we form government, and somebody asked me, assuming, he asked me, who's your candidate? Our candidate is Edwin Sifuna. By good luck, he's given that presidency on a silver platter, and his president is next year, September 10th, he's sworn in, and his president, now this is President Sifuna. And he has now all these principles he has to deal with, beginning with Rigiji and stuff. How is he able to govern?
Let's not misguide the audience.
We have 30 seconds.
Especially the voter.
Yeah.
Especially the voter. Gaira knows how Kenyans vote. If Kenyans were to be the kind of people who just vote for any newcomer, Rajput Nazlin Omar would be president in this nation. What's the other one? Abduba Dida would have been president in this nation. We have had good people who vied for presidency, but they were not in the body of what a Kenyan votes for.
Okay.
As we are going into this coming election, the truth is the person who Kenyans vote for has not shifted completely. And so all we are saying is that we want to insist that the bigger portion of their vetting will be on accountability and the ability to deliver for Kenyans. And so let us not pretend that this is the election we want to play experiments with to determine whether there is strength in checking whether there is 11 million people who want to change this country. We are saying that for this particular election, we must change this country. It is a desperate attempt to redeem our nation from the hands of a man who is hell-bent on destroying this nation. And so this cannot be the election where you say, let me try out and see how strong I'm going to be. This is the election where we're saying, let us come together, get rid of the enemy of our progress, replace this person with someone progressive. Hopefully Kenyans will also remove the thugs who have surrounded our initiative to create the change, and bring in good people who then, when we sit down eventually, if Sifuna is the president or whoever becomes the president, then we can safely say, now Sifuna has people to choose from who we can work with, them. They are good people.
How does President Sifuna deal with Gachagua? Just one thing.
We don't have time for one thing.
5 seconds.
We have 10. I'll give you 10. Go.
It's only a fool who does the same thing the same way and expects to see different results in a different day. For as long as we'll keep repeating the same models of electing our leaders and the coalitions that we've done before, the results will be obvious. There will be an impeached either president or deputy president in the next formation.
So Ngaira also has a problem with Edwin Sifuna having a conversation with Rigathi Gachagua that we've established. George Ngaira is the government affairs analyst. Stella Agara has been here with us this morning. If this conversation is anything to go by, there's a lot of work to be done.
Is the Situation Room the only way to start your day?